gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we like to say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. I want to start our Sunday as usual by embracing all that you bring with you to this space, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, everything that helps make you who you are. Welcome. Welcome to those who hear me say this each Sunday, as well as those who might be hearing it for the first time today. You're equally as welcome. And of course, those who are streaming with us today, we're also glad to know that you're with us. So welcome to one and all. Before we take a few moments to greet one another, I want to just make a couple of quick announcements. Firstly, after our second service today at 12:30, we're going to have a brief ceremony in memory of Marion Moose. There's going to be a short video shown, and Marion's daughter Jenny is here, is going to say a few words. We realized that because her official memorial service was out of town, not a lot of folks from her congregation were able to say goodbye and remember her the way we would have liked. So Jenny, thank you for taking a little bit of extra time today to help us do so prior to distributing her ashes in our memorial garden. We really appreciate it. And then I also want to take a few moments at the start of our service to welcome my good friend Sandy Williams, who I can now officially say of the Karl Maxey Center. And are you gonna bring your friend? You don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but yeah, we want Sandy to introduce you as well since you're here this morning. So welcome to both of you.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Sandy Williams, and this is Betsy Wilkerson. She's the president of our board for the Karl Maxey Center. I'm the executive director. So we were blessed by the donation that came from the General Assembly, which I'll talk about in a second. But I wrote a letter to the national folks to say thank you. And I was getting ready to do a letter to this church to say thank you, and I went, wait a minute, they're like right across the street. You know? And so I sent a message to Todd, and I said, hey, Todd, can I pop in and just say thank you in person? So we wanted to do that. So as a part of the General Assembly, they pick a local organization to do a special collection for there. And the Karl Maxey Center was the recipient of that. And if you haven't seen this month's Black Lens, we received $40,000. Cool is that? In addition to the money, which is always great, yay for the money. Yay. But the local UU members they just surrounded us with so much love and support. We felt welcome. We felt I don't know, taken care of, I think would be what I would say, because we sort of went into an environment that we weren't familiar with. So a special thank you to the local UUs who came, who staffed our table, who sat with us, who talked with us. We are very, very grateful. Do you want to add anything? I just want to say thank you. We're really excited.
I want to say thank you also, and I share with a few members, that was my first introduction to the Unitarian Church, and what an awesome, that's a good thing, it really was. But I have to agree with Sandy, the women who took us under their wings, and you know who you are, I've already spoken to you, brings tears to my eyes because they demonstrated the love that you preach. So when you see people walk in their talk, it warms the heart. And the Carl Maxey Center will be a better place for your donation. And my personal thank you from myself and the board for your support in our community. So that's all I got to say before I start crying.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you both so much for being here this morning. We really appreciate it. And I know that we can say you're welcome to your thank you, but as I mentioned during the first service, Sandy, if I can be so bold as to speak on behalf of Unitarian Universalism as a whole, just this once, I'm sure my friends would agree that gift was a way of saying thank you to you and to the Carl Maxey Center for all that you do for our community and our world. So it is we who are indebted to you, and thank you for being here today, but also present in our community. So let's take a few moments to greet one another, as is our custom on Sunday mornings. I hope, as always, you'll make some new friends along the way, and if you are joining us more recently, try not to be too shy, because we are glad you're here. Thank you. And as always, there will be more opportunity. Are we on? Check, check. There we go. As always, there's more opportunity to visit with one another during our social hour following the service, so please stay around for that. Let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
We create our tomorrows by what we dream of today. Astronomers are standing on a great threshold of space exploration that could see evidence of extraterrestrial life being discovered in the next 20 years, an expert has claimed. Life beyond the Earth seems inevitable given the immensity of the universe, says US planetary scientist Sarah Seeger. The following commentaries are variations of those I wrote for the All Little Nature Chapel. Dreams. Often, this magical word represents a marvelous goal and encourages us to go out of our comfort zone to happily and enthusiastically strive for the manifestation of our wishes, however unlikely these seem at the outset. We must listen to our heart and mind to reach out for what we believe to be significant. We must follow our star, despite the odds, in order to discover what lies beyond our current world, and even, who knows, what lies beyond the Earth.
Our first in-service hymn this morning is Touch the Earth and Reach the Sky. Please rise in body or spirit. And do note that if you pick up a hymnal instead of use the screen, that we are doing verses 1, 3, and 5 this morning.
It is now time for our story for all ages. And if there is anybody here who wants to come up to the front for a story for all ages, you can. You can sit in some of the empty chairs or sit in this open space right here. I'm going to stay here today because I have some cheat sheets to help me out, but I want you to be able to see. So come on up, and as always, I brought a friend with me to help, because you all know that I am a rotten storyteller and need all the help that I can get. Anybody else? Anybody else coming up? Going once, going twice? Hey! Sophia. Wisdom. And if any of you change your mind and want to come up anytime, okay? No problem. Okay, so let's see who I brought today, okay? Oh my goodness, this is one of my favorite characters. Look at this magnificent person. So this is actually, obviously, what kind of person is this? Yes, what? Orangutan. Very good. So this is an orangutan. And what is your name? Orangutan. Yes, no. We know that you're an orangutan, but what actually is your name? I told you. Orangutan. All orangutans are named orangutan. Oh, okay. Well, that's a little bit different, but it just so happens that I know what the name orangutan means. It means man of the forest, or as we Unitarian Universalists prefer to say, person of the forest. And I guess this is so because humans and orangutans are actually relatives. Oh, you think that's funny, but orangutans and humans are from the family of what? Yes. Mammals, yes, and even more narrowly, apes. We're a particular kind of mammal called apes, and all gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutans and humans have all evolved from the same ancestor. That's silly. Humans are nothing like orangutans. You have short arms, too weak to swing in the trees. You have squished faces and small noses that can't smell dangerous animals. Well, that's true. And you don't even have enough hair to cover your bodies on a cold night. Well, that's why we've invented blankets. Well, we have evolved a little bit differently, but that doesn't mean that we're not part of the same family, right? What is this evolved? Oh, well, evolution means that all creatures come from the earth. You've got your hand up. Yeah, what does evolution mean? We evolved from apes. That's an excellent way to put it. I like the way you say evolved. That says it all, right? That explains it. Very good articulation of what that means in one word. Awesome. So, yes, so it means we've evolved from the earth, and we all started as very small single cells. And over time, we kept changing into new and different kind of animals like humans and orangutans. Okay, well, how exactly do you think that we got here? Everyone knows. Grandfather Wind shook grandmother tree, and all the animals fell from the sky like fruit. Well, that's a pretty nice story, but science tells us that all animals evolved from the earth. I see. And just where did the earth come from? Well, as I understand it, the earth is a piece of star that blew up a very, very, very long time ago. So, a mighty wind blew, and the earth fell from the sky. Well, I guess, in a manner of speaking then, that's true. Like I said, Grandfather Wind shook grandmother tree, and all the animals fell from the sky like fruit. Well, I guess sometimes, even when it sounds like we're different, we're really saying the same thing. So maybe humans and orangutans aren't so different after all. Okay, say goodbye. Good day. I'll let you.
We light the second chalice so that as our children and youth go to their chapels, they carry the light of our flame with them. May it illuminate, inspire, and warm you as it does us. Today we have a special collection. Inside your order of service, you will find a small envelope which you may use for your contribution. You do not need to seal it since we reuse these envelopes. This morning's special collection is in support of Sarah. Sarah works to revitalize the East Central neighborhood and other low-income regions of Spokane by lifting up and supporting youth. Sarah offers a personalized tutoring program, a health-focused basketball camp, and a job and skill training program. Sarah's restaurant, Fresh Soul, at 3029 East 5th Avenue, offers job training for youth ages 14 to 18. The 8-week summer basketball camp for ages 5 to 16 focuses on health and fitness and other life skills and provides breakfast and lunch for participants. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world.
Thank you so much. We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our thoughts and minds, and I received a request on behalf of Dominique Wallace, one of our church members and one of our newer members to our Board of Trustees. Dominique's 19-year-old sister-in-law is in the hospital in critical condition. She was not expected to survive, but I spoke with Dominique briefly this morning, who let me know that things have stabilized a little, so please keep her and her entire family in your thoughts. And let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion.
Be humble, for you are made of earth. Be noble, for you are made of stars. And continue to go forward, endeavoring to remind the world that each one of us has been endowed with magic and light to share as the most wonderful of divine gifts. Namaste.
For our reading today, if you would turn with me to number 570 in the back of your gray hymnal, number 570, for a responsive reading. And there are enough of us here today for maybe this side of the room to start, and this side can be our respondents, and we will conclude on the last verse together. Spirit of love that flows against our flesh,
sets it trembling, moves the cross of our stress, erasing every boundary that we set, and swings the doors where our lives lie. This is the prayer I sing, save our perishing earth. Spirit that hears each one of us, hears all that is, listens, hears us out. Inspire
This is a prayer I sing, for we have forgotten this, and so the earth is perishing. Thanks again so much for being here today, bringing your incredible talent with you. Nicolina, thank you as always for your accompaniment. Life leaves. Life leaves, or it dies trying. This is one of the principles I consider essential to the processes of evolution. All life is evasive. It's never satisfied with the way things are. It's always on the move, striving to become something more. When our universe began 13.7 billion years ago, it was smaller than the tiniest of seeds, yet somehow burst beyond its confines and has been expanding ever since. It's still pushing its own limits and boundaries. Ours is a transcendent universe. This is true not only of what has become its incomprehensible expanse, but of everything about it and within it. When it began, the universe had only one element, hydrogen. Eventually, these lone elements formed immense communities of hydrogen clouds that became so heavy they began to collapse in on themselves, and their internal temperatures became hot enough from the pressure to form the first generation of stars, fusing two hydrogen elements together in the process to create a second element, helium. And when the pressure of these stars became too intense, they, like the universe itself, began expanding, either by casting out their outer layers or by becoming supernovae, making the entire universe something more than it had ever been. This same process has been continuing for eons. Our transcendent universe forever expanding and becoming increasingly complex, becoming more than it has ever been before. It wasn't long after its own birth the universe became complex enough to form the first planets, actually within about 200,000 years of the Big Bang, about as long as modern humans have been on the planet. But these were gaseous giants composed mostly of hydrogen and helium balled together by gravity. We know it wasn't until harder elements like iron and magnesium and silicon were formed that it became complex enough to form rocky planets, including our Goldilocks planet 4.5 billion years ago. Keep in mind that 1 billion seconds is 31 years. So try to imagine what 4.5 billion years is. 1 billion years later, the Earth's transcendent chemistry became complex enough to form life. And the most ancient of our ancestors, the prokaryotes, became complex enough, but still were so simple they had no microorganisms. Very simple constructs. Didn't even have a nucleus. Yet they were not content to live as such simpletons. After another 1 billion years passed, they evolved into eukaryotic cells, complex enough to contain small organelles, including a DNA containing nucleus and mitochondria. Yet, they still weren't satisfied. Our eukaryotic ancestors could not contain themselves. Another 1 billion years after our simple unicellular ancestors transcended into complex unicellular ancestors or beings, they converged to form the first multicellular organisms. Boneless, brainless globs of eukaryotic algae. Some of you are thinking you have some friends like that. You're living in such close proximity, naturally communicating their genetic materials, proving fatal in some cases and beneficial in others, which through this process of natural selection evolved into sexual reproduction. After about 600 million more years, the first sexual revolution on Earth led to the emergence of simple animals like sponges, fungi, and coral. And though sturdier, more complex, capable of sexual reproduction, locomotion, and digestion, these first true animals on Earth weren't content to remain where they were or even what they were. Their continued discontentment with staying put caused the Cambrian explosion, during which life began diversifying faster than ever. Some organisms even dared venture from the life-sustaining oceans onto the hot, barren land. Many died in the process of getting trapped in the unbearably hot shallows and the corrosive, deadly atmosphere. But some, presumably with just the right mutations, learned to survive the heat and later to consume sunlight rather than digesting other organisms. They became the first plants, and some plants later found their way into the seas, while some other ocean creatures followed the original plants onto shore. From this perspective, what Darwin named evolution could also be considered an ongoing process of transcendence, of everything in the universe, including its elemental, chemical, and biological structures, continuing to move beyond where they are and what they are. We live in a transcendent universe, and everything in it is constantly moving into transcendent states. Part of transcendence, a word that literally means climbing over or to surmount, includes transcending location. Life likes to get around and can die trying. All species are evasive species. Plants move about by letting the winds or other creatures carry their pollen and seeds to new places, sometimes adapting, needing to adapt along the way. Other animals move about on their own, by land, air, or sea, also adapting themselves to new environments along the way via natural selection. Among mammals, the human animal has been most successful at this. We've migrated and adapted to living almost everywhere, from the hot and humid savannas to the frozen Arctic tundra, from lush green forests and jungles to barren deserts, and have dipped ourselves deep into the oceans and blasted ourselves into outer space. We've accomplished all of this transcending our natural, safe environments, despite the limitations our natural bodies have enduring extreme heat, frigid cold, watery environments, and what should be certain death anywhere outside of the Earth's atmosphere. But we haven't only been great at transcending our natural environments. Human beings have another exceptional power, unlike that of any other animal we know of: the ability to liberate information from the unforgiving confines of genetics, of our genes. Certainly other animals are capable of learning new behaviors, some of which they're able to pass on to their own kind through mimicry. But most non-humans, as far as we know, are born with all the knowledge they need to survive from almost the moment they are born. They have genetic know-how expressed through instinct. Human beings, on the other hand, must learn the behaviors necessary to navigate and survive our ever-changing environments and cultures by being educated for many years, sometimes re-educated for many years long after we are born. As our civilizations advance, each generation must learn new skills and knowledge previous generations didn't need. In this way, humans represent a major bifurcation in evolutionary history. Through our species, information has begun to transcend the limits of biology. Through us, information can now be exchanged inorganically, simply by exchanging non-physical constructs called ideas. Each Sunday as you hear a sermon, or when you read the paper or a book or talk with a friend on the phone or over tea or coffee, a near miracle occurs on earth. Inorganic, non-physical information is exchanged between two organisms through memes, not genes. I know some people complain my sermons aren't very spiritual. But I consider this idea my most spiritual idea of all, and perhaps among the most spiritual ideas I have ever heard. It's what makes our species, despite its many downfalls, so beautiful and special. We represent a transition of life from purely physical to non-physical states. Maybe this is why so many of our religions imagine life beyond the physical, because these mythologies reflect some natural longing of life itself to transcend its physical constraints, its need to evade or invade new dimensions of existence. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the beloved Jesuit priest, mystic, and scientist who fully embraced evolution, how's that for a combination? Envision this eventually resulting in information taking on a life of its own, of our planet itself becoming, in his terms, the thinking earth. He goes on to explain, we must enlarge our approach to encompass the formation taking place right before our eyes of a particular biological entity such as has never before existed on Earth, the growth outside and above the biosphere of an added planetary layer, an envelope of thinking substance to which, for the sake of convenience and symmetry, I have given the name of the noosphere, the knowledge sphere, written in 1947. A generation later, in 1982, Peter Russell, a theoretical physicist and computer scientist by training, published his best-selling book, The Global Brain, subtitled Speculations on the Evolutionary Leap to Planetary Consciousness. In it, he promises, we shall see that something miraculous may be taking place on this planet, on this blue pearl of ours. Humanity could be on the threshold of an evolutionary leap, a leap that could occur in a flash of evolutionary time, a leap such as occurs only once in a billion years. He was, of course, talking about what in 1982 was soon to become known as the Internet. Electronically based telecommunications networks, telephones, radio, computer links are like the billions of tiny fibers linking the nerve cells in the brain, Russell said. Whatever we call it, the noosphere, the global brain, or the Internet, this notion that the Earth is developing a mind of its own isn't new. And today it isn't even far-fetched. What I like about de Chardin's description of it, however, as something outside and above the biosphere, a new planetary layer, is the suggestion the boundaries of the Earth are now expanding outward, deeper into space, with this biologically liberated layer of evasive information. The Internet may not exactly dwell in outer space, though it is a worldwide web of increasing information systems surrounding our globe, analogous to the formation of a neural network. Just as the Earth has an atmosphere and a stratosphere It now has a noosphere, a sphere of digital information. This network is now rapidly growing beyond the mere amassing of humanity's collected knowledge, but also connecting all of our technologies. It's turning into an Internet of Things. Automobiles, cell phones, street lamps, cameras, toasters, entire buildings and everything in them are being linked to the Internet. Some are concerned about what this global brain, this thinking Earth might mean for us mere humans. And there are some legitimate things to be cautious about, but we should also remember that this new way of being is an extension of our transcendent selves. Like Zeus giving birth to Athena from his own head, this budding intelligence is our brainchild, born not of our genes, but again of our memes. The connected global mind is a new power, a new ability that we are evolving for ourselves. The crucial part is not becoming mindless cells in its vast network, controlled by the radical groupthink, the pile-on culture of social media is now attempting to force on us through Facebook and Twitter. We must remain differentiated cells in the network of thinkers and things, not undifferentiated mindless automatons. But this has been an ongoing problem and concern for our species since long before the communications age was upon us. Meanwhile, as liberated information continues evolving a mind of its own, our evasive species continues transcending the boundaries of our natural environment. The one environment many warned we must not try to leave by venturing deeper into inhospitable space, into our own universe. Yet on October 4th, 1957, humanity launched Sputnik, the first ever object and satellite into space. A month later, Sputnik 2 carried its first living passenger into space, a dog named Leica. In 1958, Explorer 1 became the first U.S. satellite successfully launched into space. All of these, of course, remained in the Earth's orbit, but it was only a couple years later, in 1959, our Soviet neighbors sent Luna 1 to the moon, an unmanned spacecraft that missed its moonshot, but still became the first piece of technology to transcend Earth's orbit. Historic. That same year, NASA deployed a couple of spy satellites because they have their priorities straight. Captured the first ever photographs of Earth from space, and the Soviets launched a craft that made it to the surface of the moon in a crash landing, but it still got there. In 1961, they launched a probe to Venus, which traveled for a week before they lost contact with it. That's the same year that Yuri Gagarin became the first person in space, followed by Alan Shepard just a month later. In 1962, the Soviets deployed another spy satellite, and NASA succeeded in completing its first interplanetary flyby by sending a probe, the Mariner 2, past Venus. In 1964, the year I was born, May 4th, if you want to jot that down. The space race resulted in successful spacecraft designed to carry 2 to 3 passengers going into space. And in 1965, cosmonaut Alexei Leonov was the first person to ever walk in space, a human being walking in space. That same year, an American, Ed White, became the second man to walk in space. The Mariner 4 succeeded a flyby past Mars, and there were 3 different crewed missions completed by the Gemini program. In 1966, the Soviets successfully landed an unmanned craft on the moon, successfully. And in 1968, the Apollo 7 and 8 missions allowed astronauts to orbit the Earth and the moon, respectively. And of course, in 1969, the Apollo 11 mission allowed human beings to walk on the surface of another body in space, the moon. In 1972, Pioneer 10 became the first spacecraft to transcend our solar system. In 73, Skylab, the first space station, was launched. In 74, Mariner 10 flew over Mercury. In 76, even as other nations are now getting involved in space exploration, the Viking 1 landed on Mars, with Viking 2 already on its way. In 77, Voyager 1 performed flybys past Jupiter and Saturn, even as Voyager 2 was heading for Uranus and Neptune. The same year, the Soviets launched an orbital docking station. In 1978, the first GPS satellite was launched. In 79, Pioneer 11 flew past Saturn. Since all of these historic first-time events, we've launched the Mir space station, developed reusable space shuttles, mapped the surface of Venus, sent probes to Jupiter, launched the Hubble Space Telescope, explored asteroids, deployed privately owned labs, launched DirecTV satellite, launched the International Space Station, where more than 220 astronauts from 17 different countries have lived and worked. Today, the Voyager 1, which entered interstellar space in 2012, 12 billion kilometers from the Sun, represents the extent of our transcendence, of our locative transcendence so far. There's also nearly 5,000 satellites in orbit around our planet right now. Just this year, Elon Musk announced his company's Starlink's plan to surround the planet with 12,000 satellites to provide instant, high-speed internet access to everyone everywhere on our planet. So whether we like it or not, because some may not, in addition to having an atmosphere, a stratosphere, and a noosphere around the planet, we also now have a growing satosphere. Right? A sphere of satellites, a network of satellites. Additionally, we have so many probes and landers on other planets, it is difficult to find a hard number these days. And now serious plans are in the works to develop floating space cities and to send people to Mars within the next decade. To many, all of this may seem foolhardy and unnatural, or unimportant compared to the many problems that we must solve right here on Earth. But to me, it seems as natural as the first cells on Earth emerging from their primordial soup. Simple algae adapting to live on dry land, or fish crawling out of the sea, or mammals crawling back in. Today, it's still difficult to imagine life transcending its biological confines, for our biology to adapt to living outside of Earth's atmosphere. But if we consider how far we've already come, recognizing since Sputnik was launched just 62 years ago, we have already made enormous encroachments into outer space, including the addition of new planetary layers, a noosphere and a satosphere. If it is true, as Peter Russell said, that we are amidst a leap such as occurs only once in a billion years, it may be true that our evasive species is beginning to climb out of its own primordial soup by adapting to and adopting the universe itself as our natural environment. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the founder of Transcendentalism, once said, "We live in succession, in division, in parts, in particles. Meantime, within humanity is the soul of the whole. the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. Maybe as terrifying as leaving can be, as venturing forward into the unknown is, as difficult as it is for us to change, the strange drive within us to surmount these fears is but the transcendent universe itself calling us home, to be at one with all that is. Or as Neil Armstrong said when asked why we should go to the moon, it's in the nature of our deep inner soul. We're required to do these things, just as a salmon must swim upstream. Thank you.
Well, we're going to close with a hymn that we don't do often, but it's an old melody. It's from the Kentucky Harmony, and well, think of it as a slow march, but the words apply so beautifully to this morning's sermon. So please stand to sing A Fierce Unrest with me, number 304, and I'm going to have Michelina play it through all the way so you can hear the tune.
The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. Beyond the appearances, there lies a magical place which all of us, armed with faith and determination, have the ability to reach in order to enjoy a new realm of existence. Believe in the light. Namaste. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.